So what I'm going to share with you in the next 45 minutes is a roadmap to implement this in your business. And some of the things we're going to talk about, spoiler alert, I'm going to help you walk through figuring out your use cases. Because Tal gave us some great ideas this morning, but none of them are applicable to you, your business, or whatever you've got going on, because everybody's situation is unique. So that is my goal. I am not a fire hose kind of gal. So it's one topic, one thing. You're going to walk away with the ability to do this one thing. So hopefully everybody's okay with that. Okay, so who am I anyway? Why do I get to talk about this kind of stuff? Not just because I like it. Well, it is because I like it. So I am a local business owner as well. I'm the owner of Income, and we are an AI consulting firm. I've spent most of my career in marketing. Worked at a marketing agency in New York, worked for Fortune 500 in marketing, and that's what I did pretty much the last 12 years. And then 2.5 years ago, I implemented AI in my business, kind of like what I'm going to talk to you about today. And within the first 6 months, I reduced my overhead expenses by 40% and increased my team's productivity by 60%. And that equates to ROI for me, and I think it does for most people, because when your team has more capacity, and there is a phenomenon, I forget what it's called, I looked it up once, but when you have more capacity, more clients just show up. They feel it in how you talk, the way they see things work, all that good stuff. So I do equate that capacity availability to the ability to grow. And so that was 60% for me. It's huge. And so I decided I can't keep this to myself. I need to help other businesses get the same results, better results. And so I opened the AI consulting portion of my business. So that's why I do what I do. And we're seeing some really cool results, and I'm having a blast doing it. Okay, so we're going to take a quick poll. Who's already using AI daily for themselves or in their business? It's okay. Cool. And who's still figuring out their first step? Awesome. Hopefully we're going to have a little bit here for both of you. And then for those of you that didn't raise your hand, we got you too. No worries. This thing always wants to be temperamental. Oh, there it goes. Did I go too far? No, I did not. Okay, so we hear a lot in the news. This AI project failed. This AI implementation failed. This rollout didn't do well. And we wonder why. Is it the artificial intelligence? Probably not. It's probably one, if not all of these 4 things. So number 1 is starting too big. When you hear about the failure, it's because they went big and audacious, and they started from no AI whatsoever, and they built an AI agent, and they released it to the world, right? Didn't internally, they sent it out there, and that's when you hear the big sweeping headlines about the airline that was giving away free tickets because their AI's customer service bot said yes to everything, or the AI sales bot that the automotive company put out, and they were selling cars for $1 because it allowed them to negotiate. That's where you see these big fails come from, right? And they have to roll things back, or they laid off their entire customer service department, and then it didn't work, and they had to start hiring people back. It's because I think they went out too big, too fast. No clear plan. I'm sure, and I've done it myself. We sit in the room and we listen to Tal, and like, oh my God, I need that tool, I need that thing. But why, right? In other words, you're not starting out with a plan, you're starting out with chasing shiny objects. And there are so many shiny objects to chase with artificial intelligence. Undefined success measures. When you have a team and you're just like, great, we're gonna do this, and you go off and do it, everybody has a different idea of what success looks like in their head. So can you imagine you get at the end of it and you've got 5 people on the team and you have 5 different definitions of success? Who wins? Probably nobody, right? Because it didn't meet their definition of success. You ask them and they're like, nope, this was not successful, right? So you got to clearly define success. And limited resources. So we have a company, and we got Susie. Susie's shown some interest in artificial intelligence, and we're like, great, you're going to do it. And she's like, oh, she already has 153 things on her plate, and now we're giving her 154. And that's brand spanking new, doesn't have measures of success, no clear objective. How often do you think she's going to work on it, right? And then we say, oh, the plan failed, you know, because we're trying to burn Susie out even more. And the other side of it, internal tolerance. We got Bob, sorry for the Bobs in the room, he thinks AI is the devil, right? We'll call him a contrarian. And so what is he going to do every time Susie starts talking about this, trying to ramp herself up? He's going to squash her like a bug, is what he's going to do, right? Doesn't like change, thinks it's not the right time. So, and you always have to put up with those dynamics in your organization. You have to figure out how to mitigate that if you can. So now what I'm going to talk about is what I like to call my crawl, walk, run approach to artificial intelligence. So we are going to do a framework, but we are going to do a roadmap. But inside the roadmap is a framework, the crawl, walk, run framework. And may not be sexy, may not be mainstream, but it's going to get you to where if you invest time, money, and resources into artificial intelligence, it's going to get you to the finish line, which is the objective. So the crawl phase, we're going to talk about high impact prompts, right? There is a time, like Tal was showing you, to freebase or base, you know, just prompt like however you want. However, if we are going to take Susie's expertise and get Timmy, the intern, to be able to produce a similar result, we need a little more structure. And so creating prompts and prompt libraries so that when Susie creates something that works, Timmy, the intern, and then even Bob, the contrarian, might try it and start changing his opinion because he's given something that we already know works. And then when you get through prompting and build this nice prompt library, you will experience people saying, oh, I'm tired of copying and pasting prompts. I don't want to do that anymore. That's now boring. AI has become boring, right? I've experienced it myself. My team's like, oh, do we have to keep copying and pasting and changing this? No. That's when we start walking with simple automations. Again, we're not at agents yet. We are in simple automation mode, right? That's where you trigger something, you push a button, you send an email, you put something in a folder, something happens, and then the work automatically happens, spits it out at the end for a human to look at. Or if you're crazy pants, it can just go right out to the world. Your choice. Then we get into running, and that's where you get into agents where you need a level of human interactivity with a intelligent bot agent type of thing. So it's handling multi-steps, it's doing things, booking that, doing all the things you saw today. But that's not where you start, right? Because you don't have the learnings from the other two phases to know what to put into the agents. Make sense? So that's why I follow this framework. So now let's talk about the roadmap and what that looks like. So it is a 90-day roadmap, right? The reason I give it so much time, it seems like it should happen faster. However, we have lives, we have other things to do in our business. AI is supposed to come on board and help relieve things, but while you're implementing it, it's still another task that needs to be done. So first, 1 to 3 weeks, you're going to identify and rank use cases in your business. And after this slide, I'm going to actually walk you through the exercise of figuring out your use cases, right? So you're going to leave here with at least one use case that you can take back. And then as part of that, then we want low-risk use cases to create high-impact prompts. And like I said, what a prompt is it's something that's reusable, right? A good prompt, again, you can freestyle all you want, and even in the first iteration of that prompt will be freestyle, but it will be by your subject matter expert, not Timmy the intern, right? Because Timmy doesn't have Susie's 25 years of experience doing the job over and over and over again. What we're trying to do is create something that Susie can give to Timmy. And the nice thing about prompts is they're quick to create. You create a structure, you put it in a library, you get to use it, you see impact pretty quickly. So then, when you get that all sorted out, what that is, give yourself 4 to 6 weeks to choose the right tool and then design that prompt, right? You're going to need time to figure it out, test it, make sure the output is exactly the way your subject matter expert wants it to be before you roll it out to anybody else. And so, depending on what it is, it could be ChatGPT, it could be Claude, it could be Perplexity, right? We don't know yet. It all depends on what your use case is. This is why defining the use case first is so important, because it will help guide you to the right tool selection. A lot of times I hear, I don't know what tool to use. And it's like, well, what's your use case? Well, I don't have one. That right there makes it so hard. You've got to find the problem to solve, identify it first. So then once you've built prototype, initial draft, whatever you want to call it, designed it out, build it, test it, and measure. So when you're thinking about your use case and you say, this is the one, it's at that time you figure out what your success metric is, right? Not after, not at the end of it, at the beginning. What is the outcome supposed to look like? And then testing it. The person that built it tests it. I love the idea of interns because they don't know a whole lot and we're always trying to find things for them to do. Having them test this kind of stuff is amazing because if they can produce a correct output like what Susie would do manually, you know you're onto something. It's really cool to see that happen. You're like, wait a minute, you did that? That's awesome. And then if they don't do it right, you go through an iterative process of testing. It's like, well, why didn't their output come out the same? And you'll hear Susie go, oh, I forgot this. Let me put this in there too now, right? So that long prompt is correct. And it does need to be structured, but it needs to be reusable, repeatable, so that, she can keep refining it. And then you roll out, you train, and then you start expanding, right? And you may build 5, 10, 50 prompts and put them in your prompt library, and you're good to go. But that's where you need to be at the end of your first 90 days. Now, if you're already there, right, you've built a whole bunch of prompts and you have a prompt library, that's awesome. You're going to follow the same process to get to your first automation. And if you have automations already and your team's like, well, I need something a little more sophisticated to do X, Y, and Z, you follow the same process to get to your first agent, right? So wherever you are on this scale of crawling, walking, and running, to get you to your next phase, give yourself 90 days. Make sense? Cool. All right, so let's get into our exercise. Let's find out what your use cases are and rank them. So get out pen, paper, phone, whatever you want to type on. And the first part that we're going to do is I want you to list out, think about your business, think about your people, right? What's boring? What's repetitive? What's time consuming? And this one's my favorite. What's frustrating, right? Like think of it and all of a sudden you go, oh, I don't want to do that. Or worse, I'm not going to do that today. I don't have the energy for that today, right? Those are the types of things that we want to just write down. Don't think about solving them. Don't think about anything else. Just write them down. Make a list. I'll tell you what to do with it next. I'll give you a few minutes for that. Also think about writing down if anybody on your team has come to you and go, do I really have to do this? And you're like, yes. Now you can go, maybe. Let's see. Because those are the things that they find boring, repetitive, time-consuming, and frustrating. Otherwise, they would not come to you to complain about them. So just focus on just that. Give another little bit of time. Alrighty. So now what I want you to do is look at that list, and if you could give that to Timmy, our intern, and he could produce it at a 90 to 95% accuracy rate, meaning that's time savings for you. Give it a big circle. Again, we're not thinking about Timmy's competency right now. We're just figuring out that the wish list, the unicorn. If I could give this to someone else, how much time would it save me? Hours? Days? Days? Months? Weeks? Right? We were talking about one of her use cases earlier, so give those a big circle. And then the next thing I want you to do is put a check mark or a tick next to any of those items that if you did give it to me and he screwed it up, you're like, no problem, we can fix this. No harm, no foul. You know, didn't reach the public. We don't look stupid to anybody. It's just between us chickens, right? Tick those, right? Non-critical fixable, or even better, internal. Perfect. Okay, so the ones that you want to put at the top of your list right now are the ones that are circled and ticked. Put a big star next to those. They fall into this quadrant up here. High time savings, non-critical errors, right? It's a good use case to play with, figure out how this whole thing works at whatever level you're at. The next one is circle, but no tick, right? That's up here. That's human in the loop. And you're probably going to want to be there anyway, especially if this whole thing gives you a little anxiety. You're like, I can't give everything over to the artificial intelligence. We don't recommend that. And that's why we call it human in the loop. You've got to figure out in the process where the human's in the loop. And then again, if you treat AI like it's your intern, if like it's Timmy, where would you want Timmy to check in with you to make sure that he has not set a dumpster fire somewhere that you have to put out, right? The next one is your not circled but ticked. That's these low time, low priority stuff. The reason I say, you know, these need to go lower on the list, right? Because when you do them, you'll see, you'll be like, wow, that's great, but it's not going to have a lot of impact, right? Bob's not going to be impressed. Our contrarian, he's going to be like, yes, so what, right? We want to do something that's impactful, that gets everybody going, this is something we could really, really do. And then because you're at whatever beginning next phase that you're at, you want to stay away from critical things, which is a lot of the stuff that I was talking about earlier that got put into the news. A couple companies had egg on their face. We want to kind of avoid that if we possibly can. So start with your circles and ticks, which are starred. So hopefully you have at least one of those on your list. Does anybody want to share? I love hearing use cases. Who wants to share? Who's brave? Yeah, here we go.
Social media posts.
Ah, perfect. You have no idea how many times I've solved that problem, by the way. But it is a really good place to start. You have your hand up? Estimating, yes. That is high impact because if you can get an estimate out faster, you can get the work, right? Nobody wants to wait for their estimates. Anybody else?
This is kind of a weird one, but aggregating events from a whole bunch of different organizations to put into one newsletter.
Yes, that's great. That's a huge time savings. That's what you and I were talking about, right? How long does it take you to aggregate events using the old method of Googling and looking at links and that kind of stuff? When you just throw all that stuff in, it gives it to you, and then you can even have it format for you, right? That's an amazing prompt. And to take that a step further for my friends in the room who are thinking about automations, that can be automated once you get comfy with the prompt. So you get to the point where you're like, I'm tired of taking its output and copying it and pasting this. It can take the output, format it correctly for you, put it in your newsletter, and get it ready for you to send. That's where you go from crawling to walking. Awesome. Anybody else before we move on? Yeah.
All the flyers and artwork for all of our events, and then having it all be correct.
Yes. So double checking the work, right? It is amazing for that. I had a client where they had to check draft blueprints, right? And make sure that electrical lines weren't getting run through plumbing lines, because in reality that does not work, even if it works on a drawing. And so it would compare the drawings and say, here are the things that need to be fixed. So you take an engineer who doesn't like doing that, right? And giving him or her the ability to find those things and fix them, it turned that stuff around much faster for them. So I love that one. Awesome. Okay, so now that you are armed with your use cases, the rest of this is going to make figuring out tools and stuff like that so much easier for you. So you guys are the smart ones. Shh, don't tell anybody else out there. Because you came here first, everything else that you learn throughout the rest of the summit is going to be easier for you. And even though you couldn't go to the other ones that are going on right now, go back and watch those with your use case in hand, and your brain's just going to light up, right? It's going to become so much easier for you to figure out what tool and how to implement it. And so that's what we're going to keep talking about. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about tools. I'm going to talk about it a little different way. So, as Brandon said, we love our QR codes. So if you click on that one, you're going to get my lovely little resource. This is my personal list of favorites of tools that I like to use. And there's some cool ones on there. Tal told you about some of them, but there's some other ones on there. And I'm constantly updating this. Every time I talk, I update the list. I'm actually going to turn it into a blog post so that it just stays indefinitely updated. Just to give you some ideas. So let's talk about this framework again now that you have your use case. So get your use case firmly in your brain. Prompting, generating text, generating images, videos, and strategy quickly, right? Now you can envision building out prompts that do that because ChatGPT can do all of those things, right? You saw a bunch of demos on that. Now you can figure out how to apply that to your business. Automations for repetitive tasks, data movement. That's really what automation is. Put this over here and don't make me touch it. And streamlining workflows. That's a lot of what we talk about. And then agents, that's our running, right? Interactive, holds a conversation, topics, performs tasks, right? And then this one I like to call marathoning. So if you've been running for a while, you can do a marathon, right? If you train for it. I know, it's like, ew, no. How about a sprint? That's where you take prompting, automations, agents, and your data, smoosh them all together. Yes, it's a technical term, smoosh them, and you get these super powerful agents, and this is where agentic is going, right? So you heard me talk about earlier, if we're sitting on the couch up here, right, before even prompting, which some of you raised your hand in the room and said, yeah, that's me, you gonna wanna go right here? Should I put you on the starting line of a marathon and say, here's a bar and a glass of water, good luck? No, it doesn't make sense when you put it in that context. So why would you do that in your business? So again, where you are today, figure out where you're going to start next inside the framework. And then the tools that you're going to use will make much more sense. So you've got the LLMs. And then when you get into the world of automation, agents, and this good stuff, you're going to think about databases. I like Airtable. It has a free version. It's cloud-based, easy to set up. If you didn't know what it was, you could have swore it was a spreadsheet, but it's so much more than a spreadsheet, but it looks like a spreadsheet. So all good, cool stuff. And then make.com. It's on my list. If you're starting to get into the world of automations, that's where I recommend you start. Make has been around forever. Make, Zapier, but I like Make. It's easier to use. Even before AI. So it has a long, deep history in automations. It's a very stable platform. It's not going anywhere. That's the other concern to have with some of these tools is they popped up yesterday, which means they could be gone tomorrow. How many of us lived through the dot-com crash, right? You're like, but I used that tool. Oh, it's gone, right? We're seeing a lot of that. So I like to stick with things, that's why I have my favorite list, that I feel like are going to be around a little while. And things come and they go, and I stick with the ones that I like. So, and then you're going to want to integrate these into your CRM, your email system. You have existing systems. You've got to figure out how all this is going to work with those existing systems as well. So that's why prompting's one of the easiest places to start. Okay, so we have our use case. We talked about building. Let's talk a little bit more about iteration, testing, and measuring now that we know what our use case is. So we want to build small and build iteratively. Susie's our subject matter expert. She's going to freestyle that prompting. She's going to get an output, and she's going, this is okay. Great. Copy, paste it, format it, clean it up a little bit, throw it into a prompt library, which honestly could be a Word doc. We're not talking craziness here, right? Word doc, Excel spreadsheet, whatever you want, right? Just has to be centralized. That's the key. And say, okay, Timmy, go for it. Timmy does great, Timmy doesn't do great. Whatever it is, it's an outcome, right? And then we iterate based off of that. I always recommend testing with real data. So if we're scouring events to put into a newsletter, let's not use old event data, let's use new current event data. Use real-time case study information right now, because if you use old data and then you go to try to put it in production to new data, there could be a difference. And so we want that clean version to be as clean as possible. If you're building a database or you've got documents, make sure they're the correct version of that document, right? Don't go old, don't go with, oh, I just found this, let me use that. Measurability. Define your metric. Are you trying to save time? Reduce errors, right? Let's make Timmy better. Let's make Timmy more useful. Quality output, right? Let's turn Timmy into Susie. Wouldn't that be cool? We got Susie at 3/4 of the price. That's awesome. And that's actually a real world scenario I will share with you quickly. So marketing. We do SEO, which is really a lot of blog writing. I hired very expensive writers back in the day. And they're people, they're humans. Things came out bad. It was repetitive. It was redundant. And then one of the biggest things I did is I pulled in, you're talking about social media, but that's core fundamental stuff, writing. And then I was shocked by the output at the quality. And so I actually replaced all of my professional writers who were giving me crap, honestly, with virtual assistants from the Philippines. English was their second language. They were putting out and still put out really high quality content, right? And my writers weren't interested in doing this anymore. They wanted to do other things. So as they raised their hand and said, I'm done, well, I just kept giving it to the VAs. So it's not about replacing people. It's about when you lose people, those people lose interest, they want to do something else, let's give them the opportunity and maybe replace that with AI. That's the right way to think about it. Because these companies you hear that got rid of their entire customer service team that were actually doing well, it's a bad move. Now you gotta go rehire, retrain, 10 times more expensive. So this is your iteration and key success, right? That's your thing. Okay, now let's talk about adoption. You were asking me this question about operations, right? You could do all the right things, but if you don't implement it well and give it time, it could very well fail. Meaning it could be working successfully. You could have a brilliant success metric and it may meet it. But if the people don't adopt it, it's not going to work, right? So you start, again, in businesses, we've heard this, structure and process is king. It's the only way you scale. It's the only way you're successful. So when Susie builds this, Timmy tests it, and we think it's good, we got to document it and standardize it. Again, what's our standardization for the prompts and the prompt library? Are they all going in a Word document? Great. They all go in a Word document. We don't put one here, we don't put one there, all together, same format, so they're easy to find, right? Make them accessible, that's what I mean there. And then make sure everybody has access and they know that they exist. And that's part of training and empowerment. It's like, if I give you this task to do, I want to make sure you go to the prompt library that's here, follow this process, and show us the output. Are we good? You got that? Awesome. So then they go and they do that. They have to know it exists, and you probably have to remind them a couple times. And then if, let's say we get 2 to 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, and starts acting weird. The prompt's not giving you what you want. We'll call that prompt drift. That's what we call it. Models change. Weird things start happening. Maybe the data changed a little bit. That's part of the inputs. You just got to review and iterate. So iteration isn't just after it, when it's in its initial testing. You probably have to test these once or twice a year, or when the team says, hey, we're getting weird results. So you got to have a mechanism into your process. If you get a weird result, tell Susie. she'll help fix it. And then you have to nurture habits. So one thing that I've found, my team, people I know and everything, is that we rely on our memory before something becomes a habit way too much. And this is where we have to have the conversation 4 or 5 times, or they did something once and they didn't do it again, and we're like, we told you. It's because it hasn't become a habit yet. And so part of your implementation plan is helping it become a habit. So I spent 45 minutes 2 days ago with one of my guys, helping him figure out how to make something as simple as a reminder come up so that he remembered to do something that is part of our process. Because he couldn't figure that part out. Brilliant guy. But that part he couldn't figure out because he was like, oh, I'll remember. I was like, no. We've talked about this 10 times now. You are not going to remember. And so, but now he's remembering. We're doing good. So this is why I say 90 days. You got to give this part of the whole plan of the roadmap plenty of time. So if you haven't heard of the book, most of us have, Atomic Habits, not just for you, help your team figure out or give them a structure on how to build habits within the organization. Even write it up as an SOP, right? Because I guarantee you if you do that, regardless if it's AI or not, your projects are going to be successful. Okay. Let's talk about your next steps. What are you going to do? Maybe not tomorrow. I know we're all really gung-ho, but tomorrow's Saturday. Monday. How about you do this Monday? Let's talk about keeping this momentum. You're here, you're jazzed. We all want orange shirts like Brandon. So involve your team. Literally Monday, the exercise I just put you through. And if you want a copy of this deck, so you have a copy of that slide, let me know. I got cards up here. We can connect. I will send you a copy of this in a PDF format. Sit down and do the same exercise with them. Walk them through it. And then collaborate. What did you get? What did you get? Here are the ones I got. What do you think of the one that I decided on, right? Does your team really want to figure out social media, or do they feel like there's a different problem that you want to solve first? Because what you're doing is, yeah, you're making them, 1, aware, and 2, you're getting buy-in. So ask Bob what's ticking him off the most, right? Bob, what's frustrating you, right? What do you find boring? What are you not getting done, Bob? Well, I'm not getting this done. And if Bob's conscientious, he's like, I really want to do it, but I just can't. Maybe we solve Bob's problem first. Get him on our side so that he doesn't, try to put a log on Susie's road. Start small, measure big, right? That's my big takeaway. There's a lot that can be done, but make sure you know what phase you're in, crawl, walk, or run, or marathoning, but start where you are. And make sure you know what your success measure is. And like I said, review and adjust regularly. Prompt drift is real. I had this great prompt all laid out inside the GPT area of ChatGPT. And then they introduced a weird version of 4, and it broke. And when I say it broke, it broke catastrophically. It stopped following all of my requests. It was making stuff up. Like, I was like, I need this. They're like, well, no, I think you need this. So here, I'm giving you this. I even asked, I'm like, what is wrong with you? I kept asking it, what does your instructions say? And as soon as I asked that and it put it into the chat, it started following them. And I was like, okay, this is broken. We need to come up with plan B, because it was a production prompt. So it can happen, kind of like, when an employee goes off the rails a little, but luckily this is a little more fixable. So then I took the whole entire prompt, put it back on paper, threw it into the regular chat window where I could actually change the model I was using. Worked perfectly. AI fixed their conundrum, redid it, and it was fine. It took like 3 weeks, right? They just rolled something out that was just totally weird. And so stay in touch with news, right? One of the things I'm going to show you is I have a newsletter. There are other experts out there. You got like Tao, you've got the BBB. Stay informed, because on your paper, you may have something on there. You're like, oh, I'm not ready to tackle this yet, or oh, I don't feel like this could happen with AI today. If you stay in touch with things, it could probably be available soon. 3-6 months, it's not long. 6 months ago, I had a client, he was like, man, I would love to have the ability to have AI answer my phone and schedule an appointment. Guess what? We do it today now. And all I did was say to him, wait, let's just wait. We're not waiting years here, we're waiting months, which is really friggin' cool. Because then then we go back and we change things and that kind of stuff. And he's like, man, I'm struggling to get people to do this kind of work. I was like, let's wait, right? Robots are coming. They're actually kind of here now. But then to be able to productionalize them and then get them to do things, I was like, let's give it a year. He's like, okay, I can wait a year, right? So that's how you maintain this momentum that you're feeling today. It's just once a week, sign up for a newsletter, watch some videos, just be really careful of the clickbaity stuff that's on YouTube, right? Because a lot of the people that are out there, and one of the reasons why we did this summit was to get you real factual information, because they're just putting stuff out there to be able to make YouTube money. More people that watch those videos, they don't really care what they say. They just want you to watch the video, right? They're not subject matter experts. And I think you can tell that kind of stuff. Like I watched a video of a guy where he literally read an OpenAI PR announcement. I was like, what value does this bring? What, right? But 3,000 people watched it. I was like, and me, I did. Awesome. Okay, so I think I've got about 4 minutes left. So that's it. Brief, but we had a great time together, hopefully. There are different ways for you to stay in touch with me. The first one is let's say you're like, I still don't want to do this myself. Let's have a conversation. That's what I do. I come into businesses, I do all of these things, and then, especially if the problem you need solved, if you're in the crawl phase and you really need a run, I can help implement a run earlier without the dumpster fire that could happen without doing it with someone who's done this before. My newsletter. I write a lot of AI content, and it's all for small business. I don't focus on anything else. I really try to bring home ideas and thoughts that are specifically for small business owners. Or we can just hang out on LinkedIn. I'm there too. Any questions? Yes?
So when did you start doing this? When did you make this your specialty where you can, some of us that are just starting this?
Yeah.
Because it's changing all the time.
It is.
How do you ever catch up?
I read a lot of content. And I've always been this way in whatever I do. I spend a good 8 hours, if not 10 per week in my industry, right, to support my clients. To answer your questions, I did this in my business 2.5 years ago. I started on, I think it was ChatGPT 3.1, and just when 3.5 was coming out. And then I opened up my consulting firm piece, like 10, I think it's been a year now. And I started with my own existing clients, and then I started branching out to others, right? So I started pre-crawling and crawling 2.5 years ago. That's why I'm marathoning today. 2.5 years. So if you need a timeline, like how am I going to get to here? It's realistic, right? Because I'm running a business. I've got people. I've got clients. I have family. Yeah, it's not going to happen overnight. Great question, though. Anybody else? Awesome. Well, I have cards up here for anybody that wants them. If you want the slide deck, anything at all. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Audrey.
You're welcome.